3 months. That's how long I planned it. I didn't yell. I didn't report her to HR. I didn't passive-aggressively leave passive-aggressive notes on her desk. I did something much more satisfying. I spent 3 months creating the perfect trap. And then I sat in the back of the boardroom with a cup of coffee and watched her walk into it in front of our CEO, our VP of Operations, and every department head in the company. She had no idea. Right up until the moment the slide changed and the room went completely silent. This is my story. And yes, I have 0 regrets. Welcome. If you're new here, I cover stories of betrayal, justice, and revenge that actually work. Subscribe and hit the bell. You do not want to miss next week's story. I work in marketing analytics. Or I did. I've since moved on, and I'll explain why that's part of the satisfaction. When I joined the company 4 years ago, I was placed in a team of 3, me, my manager Diane, and a senior analyst named Cassandra. Cassandra had been with the company 5 years. She was friendly, polished, and very good at one specific skill, making herself look important in meetings. I noticed early on that Cassandra rarely produced much in writing. She gave verbal updates. She synthesized ideas in meetings. She had a talent for taking something someone else said and restating it in a slightly more professional way, then getting the credit for the restatement. I filed this away as office politics and got on with my job. My job, it turned out, was where I made my critical mistake. I was good at it. Very good. I was producing campaign performance reports, predictive models, competitor analyses, work that was genuinely useful to the business. What I didn't realize was what was happening to that work after I submitted it to Cassandra for review. I found out by accident, as most betrayals are discovered. It was a Thursday afternoon when I was covering for Diane, who was on vacation, and I needed to pull a deck from a shared drive. While searching, I stumbled on a folder I'd never seen before, Cassandra's folder. And inside it was something that stopped me cold. My reports. Every single one I had produced in the past 2 years. But they weren't my files. They were copies with Cassandra's name on them, her branding, her formatting, my analysis, my data, my conclusions with her name at the top. I kept scrolling. There were email threads I'd never been copied on, threads where Cassandra forwarded my work to senior leadership and presented it as her own analysis. There were responses praising her insight. There was a performance review where our VP specifically cited one of my reports as evidence of Cassandra's exceptional strategic thinking. That performance review corresponded to the year Cassandra got a promotion and a substantial raise. I sat very still for a long time. Then I thought about what to do. My first instinct was to go straight to HR. My second instinct was to confront Cassandra directly. I did neither. Here's why. I had no proof that Cassandra wasn't somehow authorized to present the work. Our internal workflows were loose. She could argue that she was the one packaging my raw analysis into presentable work, that she added value in some nebulous way. Without a clear paper trail establishing my authorship independent of the process, it would be my word against hers. And she had 2 more years of tenure and considerably more political capital with senior leadership. I needed something definitive. I needed her to demonstrate, beyond any ambiguity, that she was passing off my work as her own original thinking. So I set a trap. I spent 3 months on this. First, I started quietly documenting everything. I date-stamped all my files with metadata, emailed drafts to my personal account before submitting them, and started keeping a log of every report I produced with descriptions of the analysis. Second, I started feeding Cassandra's habit. I kept giving her good work, she expected that, but I began also adding something to certain reports, a small, specific error. Not an obvious error, a subtle one. The kind of thing that would only matter if someone presented the conclusion without understanding the underlying data. I buried a flawed assumption deep in one predictive model that made the recommendation look stronger than it was. The error was invisible at a glance, but it would collapse completely if you were asked to defend the methodology. I noted which reports contained these flags and waited. 3 months in, I got my moment. A major quarterly business review was coming up, the kind where department heads present to the CEO and board. Cassandra was scheduled to present a strategic recommendation that was based almost entirely on work I had produced. But here's the key thing. This time, I gave her a slightly different version than the one I filed. Her version had the flawed assumption prominently featured. My filed version, the one with my metadata trail, the one I'd emailed myself the first draft of, had the corrected conclusion. The boardroom held maybe 20 people. I was one of 4 analysts in the room, invited as background support. I sat near the back with my coffee. Cassandra presented beautifully, as she always did. She was confident, smooth, well-dressed. The slides looked polished. Then she got to the recommendation slide. Our VP of Strategy raised her hand. "Walk me through the methodology on this projection. This number seems higher than what our external model shows." Cassandra smiled. "Of course. The projection is based on a multivariable regression weighted for seasonal adjustment. What variables specifically?" Cassandra's smile held, but her eyes flickered. "We use the standard market indicators adjusted for—" "Which indicators? I want to understand the weight distribution." The room was very quiet. Cassandra couldn't answer because she didn't know. She had never run the analysis. She had read my summary and presented my conclusion without understanding a single step of how I'd reached it. She tried to defer. "I can follow up with the detailed methodology after." The CEO interrupted, gently but definitively. "I'd actually like to understand this now, since we're making a budget decision based on it." I raised my hand. "I can walk through it," I said. "I built the model." There was a pause. The VP of Strategy looked at me, then at Cassandra. "You built it?" she said. "Yes, I can pull up the underlying data if that's helpful." It was very helpful. I spent the next 15 minutes walking the room through the actual methodology. I answered every question. I was calm and precise because I knew the work intimately. It was mine. When I finished, the CEO said, "This is exactly what we needed. Good work." He was looking at me when he said it. After the meeting, the VP of Strategy asked to speak with me privately. I told her the truth, that I had been producing the team's analytical work for 2 years, that I had documentation of my authorship, and that I wanted to discuss how the team's contributions were being represented. Over the following month, there was a quiet internal review. I was offered a promotion. Cassandra was placed on a performance improvement plan, which she failed, and was eventually let go. I want to be clear about something. I didn't plan this to be malicious. I planned it because I needed proof that couldn't be argued away. The trap wasn't about humiliating Cassandra. It was about creating a situation where the truth was undeniable. She had presented herself as something she wasn't: smart, capable, analytical. The boardroom moment wasn't me destroying her. It was the truth, surfacing naturally. She destroyed herself. She just did it in front of everyone. What I learned: document everything. Date stamp your work. Email yourself drafts. And if you suspect someone is taking your work, don't react emotionally. Build a paper trail. Then give them enough rope. They'll always take it. Drop a comment. Was this the right move? Or should I have gone straight to HR? I genuinely want to know what you think. If stories like this hit you right in the gut, you're in the right place. Subscribe. I'm here every week with a new one. I'll see you next time.